We are now joined by Dr. Shenggen FAN. He is the Director General of the International Food Policy Research Institute and a speaker at this year's St. Gallen Symposium. Dr. FAN, thank you very much for granting us some of your time. Currently, you are committed to reducing poverty and hunger in China. In your opinion, what strategies, policies and interventions have proven to be successful so far? And how can these goals be reached most effectively?
Well, firstly, it's my pleasure to be here. It's my first time, so I have enjoyed it very much so far. So my goal is not only to reduce poverty, hunger in China, but also reduce hunger and poverty around the world. So my institute is working on reducing hunger, malnutrition, and poverty around the world. But I can use my own experience to use China as a case, how we can really reduce hunger and poverty through policy research. So my institute is doing research, is doing studies to look at different options, different strategies, and a different investment to maximize poverty reduction and hunger reduction. So some of the lessons we learned from China showed that the overall economic growth is a must. So overall economic growth. If that growth is also led by agriculture, by the growth in rural area, then the poverty reduction, the reduction in malnutrition will be the greatest. So overall economic growth, agriculture growth will be crucial for reducing hunger, malnutrition, and poverty. How do we promote pro-poor growth, agriculture growth? Investment in agriculture research, in rural infrastructure, in rural education to help the farmers to improve their productivity, to improve their non-farm employment, or even migration to urban centers are some of the most effective ways in reducing poverty, hunger, and malnutrition.
Okay, in your session at this year's St. Gallen Symposium entitled Comprehensive Approach for Food and Nutrition Security, you state that the lack of appropriate and up-to-date data hinders efforts to effectively tackle food insecurity and undernutrition. Why is data so important and how can it be gathered?
Well, firstly, right now we are facing great challenges in reducing hunger and poverty at a global level. The rough estimates show that we have more than 900 million people suffering from hunger and malnutrition, and more than 2 billion people suffer from lack of micronutrients. So when the people are hungry, when the people do not have adequate micronutrients, their health and their intelligence will be affected. Part of the challenge is we do not have accurate measures of where the poor are, how many poor are, why they are poor, or why they are undernourished. So collecting accurate data and report them in a timely fashion will provide information for decision makers, for governments to make the right decision so they can use their investments, their strategies to target their interventions to the poorest of poor, to help them to move out of poverty and malnutrition.
After joining the International Food Policy Research Institute in 1995, you conducted extensive research on development strategies in Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. At this year's St. Gallen Symposium, a key opinion that has been voiced is that Western societies have increasingly become risk-averse. Is there really a difference between the risk disposition of Africans, Asians, and Europeans?
I think the human beings are the same. They all face risks, different kinds of risks. But it is true that the richer people, richer countries are more risk-averse because they don't want to lose what they already have. But for poorer people, sometimes they are not that risk-averse because they don't have much to lose. So that's why it is very important for rich countries, poor countries to work together to really minimize the global risks. Because of globalization, we are facing great risks in terms of climate change, in terms of food production, food security, in terms of migration, in terms of conflicts. All these risks can be solved if we all work together.
The topic of this year's St. Gallen Symposium, facing risk. Why do you think it is important to talk about facing risk right now?
Well, in the last 2 or 3 years, we have seen increased global risks, such as global food prices, that really make lots of poor people more vulnerable to shocks. And even rich people now have to pay more money to food. So they also become very vulnerable to high food inflation. So we have to all work together to reduce risks in food areas. The food is fundamental to everybody. When we reduce the risks of food, then other risks can be tackled and can really work together and provide a good example for other kinds of risks.
Dr. Fan, thank you very much for your time and enjoy your stay at the Gallen Symposium.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you.